My name is Krista, and I'll be leading us through some of the Parkinson's Foundation's updates. Please know that everyone will be muted for the duration of today's session. Feel free again to use that chat function to communicate with us, share your questions, your thoughts, your feelings, where you're joining from. And our next live English session, so we're taking a break next week for our Spanish programming. So we'll connect with each other on February 27th, and Dr. Rush will be leading that program as well. Join us for other PD Health at Home events such as Wellness Wednesdays and Fitness Fridays. This Wellness Wednesday for our next episode of our mental wellness series is redefining intimacy in Parkinson's and beyond. Physical touch and intimacy are powerful. They strengthen relationship bonds. They increase our feel-good hormones. Physical touch and intimacy can lower blood pressure and influence how we see ourselves. In the context of romantic relationships, people often associate sex with intimacy. However, intimacy can take many forms. And like everything else in a relationship, intimacy evolves as people change and new challenges like Parkinson's may arise. Join us to learn how others are navigating intimacy changes and challenges during this candid virtual conversation. Disclaimer, this is adult themed, so be wary of who's around you when you're joining us. You can learn more and register for our PD Health at Home Wellness Wednesday event at parkinson.org/PD Health, and Jen will drop that link in the chat for you all. Also want to highlight that this Friday is our live Fitness Friday session. Work out differently by combining voice, movement, and cognition in a fun, immersive dual task Parkinson's exercise experience, co-led by physical therapist Josefa Domingos and speech language pathologist John Dean of dualtaskforparkinsons.com. Join us in movement for this live Fitness Friday this Friday, and there's a typo there on the screen. It's February 17th, not the 27th. Lastly, if you are new to Parkinson's or embracing a change in your journey, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We have a comprehensive website that addresses everything related to PD at parkinson.org, or you can call our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO or email us at helpline@parkinson.org. And now I've taken enough of our practice time, so I'm so thrilled to welcome Dr. Rush back this year. Last time she joined us was in November, so truly an honor to bring you back this year, Dr. Rush, and take it away. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Krista. It's so good to see everyone. I've missed you all. It feels like it's been forever since I've been on with you guys, and really it's only been a short few months, but looking forward to connecting with you today and then again later this month as well. So in that spirit of connection, I thought that perhaps we could spend a little bit of time discussing mindfulness and how to use it as a way to connect to people, those that we know well, and sometimes those that we don't know so well. And, I find it really interesting because in today's day and age, we have so many ways that we can try to connect with people. We have so much technology literally at our fingertips to connect with individuals near and far. But interestingly, there is a lot of research to show that we actually feel more disconnected than ever in the past. And certainly the past 3 years have contributed to that. There have been less opportunities for socializing due to COVID and all of the precautions that needed to be in place. And, less just natural interactions by, going to the grocery store or going out to restaurants and bumping into people. People are doing online shopping and cooking at home or bringing meals in. So there's just so fewer opportunities for contact in some of those naturalistic ways that were so common in the past. And in my work with individuals who have Parkinson's, many of them feel a bit more physically restricted when there's opportunities to get out and about and potentially socialize. Some individuals feel more self-conscious about how they appear or how they speak or how they may be able to interact naturally. which can also lead to less face-to-face communication with individuals. So instead, they may try to stay in contact with people through social media, through email, through text messaging. And, while it's wonderful to have those modalities for communicating with people, it's not the natural way that we have biologically been determined to communicate. We are meant to communicate in person as much as possible. And so, with social media, it can be wonderful to stay on track with people that you knew from high school or old jobs or places you previously lived. But social media, we find more and more can create false comparisons. And you see that so-and-so goes on all these trips and they look like they have so much fun, and so-and-so lives 2 miles from their grandkids, so they see them all the time. And sometimes that can make our own self-assessment harsh and can enhance feelings of loneliness, feelings like we're missing out and possibly not doing as well as others because of what we see on social media, even though that's often the best face that people put out there. And communicating via email or text can also lead to more superficial communication. We may not get as deep into conversation as we normally would if we were talking on the phone or talking in person. And that can leave us feeling wanting because we're not sure if we really want to talk about things that are a little bit more, deep, or things that, concern us, or things that, touch us in that way. And so, one thing that we will sometimes say is emojis are not enduring forms of communication. They can be lighthearted, they can be helpful in understanding tone sometimes, but it's not always the best way to really try to connect with people. And something that I certainly notice and ebb and flow with is people feeling more disconnected during the holidays. We're just coming off the heels of the winter holidays and New Year's, and now with Valentine's Day fast approaching, we get bombarded with all these messages of the love and joy and connection, and how they're symbolized and communicated through flowers and candy and cards. But in fact, many people feel a bit more disconnected during this time and feel more empty and more lonely because it's as if I should feel these other ways, but I don't. I should feel connected and I should feel joy and I should feel happiness, but that's not where I necessarily am right now because it may be hard for me to connect with others, or there may be, the options for connecting with others are more limited. And so all of these positive associations with some of these holidays that, really promote love and connection end up feeling like pressure, or they feel unrealistic. And so sometimes we feel like, oh, well, I should send flowers to so-and-so, or I should send cards to so-and-so because it's what's expected of this holiday. And sometimes those connections and those attempts at connections may fall short because they feel kind of obligatory or artificial. And so we can sometimes end up judging our experiences as not being enough or not being as fulfilling as something that we might see on the Hallmark Channel. And so, instead, I often will recommend that people think about connection in a different way. Connection doesn't have to be grand gestures. Connection doesn't have to only occur on certain holidays associated with Hallmark. There are ways in which we can connect in small but very meaningful ways on a daily basis. And we know that connection matters. There are quite a few studies out there that show that the more connected we feel to others, and whether that's family, friends, or anyone else in our lives, we know that feelings of connection enhance the quality of our life. It enhances our physical health, our immune system. We get over colds faster when we feel connected to others. It helps with mental well-being. People who feel connected have much lower rates of depression and anxiety and chronic loneliness because of those connections. And We are biologically wired to connect with others. This is part of our makeup. This is part of our core as a human being. And something that I will often tell my patients is that, we're pack animals, and that biological need to connect is there in order for us to thrive. And so while today we can be incredibly independent and we don't necessarily have to survive in the same ways as we used to as a group, those needs for connection have definitely not died out. And we need them all to some extent. Some of us need it a little, and some of us need it a lot. And so we just have to be able to find ways to connect to others that helps us to foster those feelings. And so, people will often ask, well, how do I do that? Where do I even start with something like that? And something that I think is incredibly important is that you have to start with connecting to yourself. If you can't connect with how you're feeling, what you're going through, and what's important to you, what's of value to you, what's meaningful to you, it becomes nearly impossible to genuinely connect with others. So we have to know thyself and get in touch with how we feel internally in order to then share things that we need to and want to with others in our lives. And so even just, briefly asking yourself, and we're going to do a little bit of a meditation practice with this as well, but I'm going to prime you a little bit here. Ask yourself what matters to you in your life right now. What are you grateful for? What do you appreciate in your life? And again, these don't have to be profound, sweeping declarations that are true now and forevermore. These can be small, discrete things that you appreciate in your life. And that can be, I really like that the receptionist at my doctor's office is always friendly. I come through the door, she smiles, she's so inviting, she makes me feel comfortable. That person matters in my life and makes my life better. I appreciate that my mail carrier always puts my packages close to my door. So my packages aren't exposed to the elements. I don't have to hunt around and find them. They're not on the opposite side of the door where I have to go around and then come back. They're right there, and they're very conscientious of where they put them. And I appreciate that because my mobility isn't what it used to be. Or, my waitress is really good at topping off my coffee. Anytime my coffee starts to run low, she's there and she's making sure that it's filled. And I really appreciate that. And so being able to find these small things that you appreciate in other people, and again, these don't necessarily have to be people that you know well or have spent the last 30 years of your life with, or people that you're blood related to. These are just people that you may interact with in your life that you appreciate and may make these small differences. And I know even for me here at the Cleveland Clinic, we have something called caregiver celebrations. And it's basically this online system where if someone does something that we really appreciate, or we really just want to make known that they did this, you can fill out a caregiver celebration, and that is then converted into an email that's sent to the person as well as their supervisor. And they, come across for all kinds of different things. And you can actually go on the website and read them, which is amazing. And so you get to see what people are getting highlighted for. And it's just, so-and-so, greeted me with a smile today, and I really needed that. Or, so-and-so helped me with this problem that I was dealing with, and they helped me figure out which way to go with it. And there's even an option for patients to do that for their providers that they saw or other employees that they interact with. So it's a way to promote connection and positivity within our very busy, overscheduled, stressful environment here. And I know when I get them, it really makes a difference. I feel good about that. I feel like, oh gosh, I made a difference in someone's life. And so just, thinking about how that feels to receive a communication like that, and then being able to offer it to someone in return. So let's actually spend a little time in a brief meditation on this topic exactly. Okay. So, a time for us to set an intention, a time for us to really tune into what you may want to focus an area of connection on. So, go ahead and get settled in your seat, whether that's upright or reclined. And you can either close your eyes or just find a soft fixed point a few feet in front of you where you can softly gaze. Just kind of noting your body and where it is in relation to itself, ensuring that it's supported. And slowly turning attention to your breath. Observing the sensation of your breath as it comes in and as it moves out. Keeping in mind that the breath is always a place where we can anchor if feeling overwhelmed, busy, and we just need a moment of respite. So as you settle into this moment, consider gently asking yourself, what are some small things that you are grateful for right now? So again, it's the small things that often end up mattering the most. As you start to brainstorm your gratitudes, can you think of a specific act or behavior that someone in your life does that brings you a sense of happiness, gratitude, or connection? And if so, I really want you to conjure the image of that person in your mind and what it is that they do that elicits those feelings. How does this person make you feel? Spend a moment labeling and connecting to these emotions. The more we can label our experiences, the better we can express them. Thinking about how you would want to share this experience with the person that's in your mind. How would you want to communicate to them? Talking to them in person, by writing a quick note. And even maybe thinking if someone were to tell you these things, how would you want to receive it? Sometimes that can help you think about how you want to give that experience to others. And again, it doesn't have to be long or complicated, something kind and simple. And considering what ripple effects it may have in that person's life, how it may inspire them to spread that feeling of kindness and connection to others. We tend to do more of what we see. We can be an impetus for kindness and connection. The possibilities of spreading it can be infinite. So consider setting an intention for how and when you may find an opportunity to share your gratitude with someone this week. Not only is it a kindness to them, but it's a kindness to yourself. And you both deserve it. After you feel as if you've at least etched out an initial idea for how you might do this, go ahead and start moving around a little, shifting your weight from one side to the other, rolling your shoulders, wiggling those fingers and toes. And coming back to our virtual room here by opening your eyes when you're ready. Starting to see some eyes open. And as you kind of come back to our space here, would love to hear feedback from anyone on their ideas for how they would like to connect with someone this coming week, or how it was to think about doing so. Always want to hear about your experiences. Okay. So we have someone that says, need to more often thank my wife for her support. It's often those people that we actually care about the most that sometimes we say so the least. And so being able to set an intention for that, I think, is beautiful. And one person said, I like to text, but sometimes send a postcard. I love that. That can sometimes be so much more personal. And, it can be, just a little bit more of a connection. It can feel more like a person. And sending cards, talking to people, spending time with people. We know that one of the biggest predictors of feeling connected to another person in conversation is not what we say, but eye contact. That's what ends up mattering the most. So even if we don't always know what to say or how to say it, what matters even more is connecting with that person on that visceral level of just seeing them, literally and emotionally. Oh, someone said bake oatmeal cookies for the hardworking people at the post office. That's awesome. I never turn away baked goods. So it's always a nice way to say thank you. A lot of people talk about, writing notes, short notes. And again, these don't have to be anything long and profound. Oftentimes just even those short communications can be so meaningful, especially in such a digital world, when able to write or even type, but have it on, homemade, not homemade, but, specialized like stationery, or, just something that shows that someone, put a little bit of thought into it, can make a big difference. Krista said hosting a Galentine's with friends and new acquaintances. So it's always nice to meet some new people. You never know. We get sometimes so enclosed in our normal day-to-day and our networks that we know, but sometimes there may be people that we don't know yet that may actually make a really meaningful difference in our lives. Poems and quotes, someone says. I like it. These are great ideas. I hope that you guys can use these to inspire one another for ways to potentially connect. We all need that at some level, and in any way that we can help fulfill that, especially in this over technical, highly individualized world that we live in, the more we can connect as humans, the better off we are. Gosh, you guys are great at this. Summer, I give homemade or homegrown flowers to people. I wish I could do that. It's just everything that comes into my possession tends to die immediately. I'm terrible. I can't keep anything alive. I can keep 2 small humans alive, but I cannot keep a plant alive to save my life. So and that was even something my daughter yesterday, she asked to have a friend over. She's 11 and they wanted to go shopping, and it's I forgot, Super Bowl Sunday. So going shopping was adventurous, to say the least. And her friend ended up coming over and they spent some time together, and then took her home. And then she came up to me afterwards, my 11-year-old, she's like, Mom, thank you so much for letting my friend come over. I really appreciated that. We haven't had that time together in so long. I'm like, oh my God. To hear that from an 11-year-old is a rare occasion, to say the least. So I really basked in that. So I think hopefully I'll be good for another 6 months until the next compliment comes along. But for me, it meant all the difference just to hear her say that. So those small words have a meaningful impact. All right. So any last comments, Krista?
I was going to ask, in thinking of connecting with others, ideas for connecting with yourself. And we're at time, but I wanted to, poke the bear a little bit, because we're constantly stimulating ourselves with things so that we don't have to think about what's going on in our brains and our minds and our hearts. And that's why a mindful meditation can be so challenging for so many. Because it forces us to listen to the inner landscape. So in closing, I'll pose that question. What are you doing to connect with yourself?
Maybe we can springboard that into another topic down the line and do a session on that completely. So I'm happy to do so if people are interested.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Sending lots of love, lots of self-compassion, lots of connection as we all connected here today for ourselves, which starts to kind of ripple out into the world. So appreciate you all showing up for yourself, for your mindful Parkinson's community and beyond. And Dr. Rush for your guidance today. And we'll see you all again live on February 27th. See you then.
Bye, everyone.